Hey everybody, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me for our devotionals. Today we're in Acts chapter 13. I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 3. Now, there were in the church at Antioch prophets and teachers, Barnabas, Simeon, who's also called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manaen, a lifelong friend of Herod the tetrarch, and Saul. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them." Then after fasting and praying, they laid their hands on them and sent them off. So over the last few chapters, specifically the last 3, we have been following the Apostle Peter. We have seen his travels and how they've advanced the gospel message for the first time to the Gentiles. We've watched as animosity against Christians grows, and devout Jews align themselves with King Agrippa. Peter is then arrested and is divinely rescued, and then returns to his home base in Jerusalem. Now here in chapter 13, we turn our attention back to Saul, who will become a central character for the remainder of the book of Acts. Remember, Saul is a former persecutor of the church, but had a little bit of a carefrontation with Jesus. He was not initially accepted by the disciples, probably because they were a little suspicious of his conversion, wondering if the whole thing was a hoax, and because he was no longer accepted by his former Jewish allies, nor new Christian allies. He retreats to his hometown of Tarsus. Eventually, Barnabas seeks him out and brings him to Antioch, which is relatively close. He advocates for Saul's testimony, knowing that his conversion was genuine and that he could be a huge force for the advancement of the gospel, especially to the Gentiles. Now, Antioch is a growing and vibrant church about 300 miles north of Jerusalem. And this church will become a key church for the expansion of the gospel. It will even appear to steal a little of the spotlight from the Jerusalem church because of its enthusiasm and strategic location for coming missionary journeys. But I want you to see something special here. This verse said this, if you read it with me. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work of the Lord that I have called them." Now, I love this moment because this has to be a special moment for Saul. Saul had lived a very lonely life for just about a decade now. If you remember, Saul encountered Jesus on the road to Damascus somewhere in the year 37 AD. Disciples then rejected him, so he retreats to Tarsus, which is way up the coast. He stays in Tarsus till Barnabas finally comes and gets him, and this lone man vouches for him. Now, 10 years later, somewhere in late 47 AD, Saul is finally fully accepted into the community of faith, and in addition, is charged with ministry leadership. And I wonder if this moment in Saul's life was almost emotional. You know, I'm sure there are some of you today who long for this. You're longing for community. You're longing for a call. Well, guess what? God is eager to give you these things. Sometimes in a season of waiting, it doesn't feel like God is doing much, but you should know that when the day comes that the Holy Spirit speaks, you better be ready, because you might discover that in the season of waiting, God was only getting ready to slingshot you into the greatest experience of your life. This is exactly what's about to happen with Saul. God had given him 10 years of quiet and lonely preparation before the coming 20 years of high-paced, adventurous, challenging ministry that we're going to read about in the coming chapters of Acts. So if you are in a season of waiting, enjoy it. Get on your knees and then buckle up, because God may be getting ready to slingshot you into the greatest experience of your life. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you right back here again tomorrow.